Welcome to the Joy of Coding!
Hello, and welcome to episode 212 of The Joy of Coding. My name's Mike Conley, so happy to have you here. I hope you're well. Sorry about the green screen bugs on my face. I'm realizing that there's just really bad sort of artifacting right now. My green screen stuff, like the contrast is all wiped out. I'm not entirely certain what's going on with my camera. I apologize for that. I wonder if it's this stuff. Hold on a sec. Let me just adjust some of this. One sec. I should have adjusted this beforehand. There. Let's try that. That appears to be better. Hey, looking better. Thanks so much for being here. Let's get started. Gonna hack on some Firefox stuff today. Let's see what goes on. I've got some tunes in the background here. This is again Pedal by Broke for Free that you can get on the Free Music Archive. If the music is annoying, do let me know. Just drop it in the Twitch chat or the live hacking Matrix channel if you're watching live, and I will adjust the music. Until then, I'll just keep it pumping. So what do I want to work on today? Well, today is episode 212. Reminder for the folks who are new, if you're new, welcome. So glad to have you here. No plan survives breakfast. I only kind of barely know what I want to work on today, and I don't know how it's going to go while I work on it. Things might go horribly wrong. Things might just completely go off the rails. The music might be distracting. The bugs I work on might end up being impossible or difficult, or we might abandon it. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen? That's kind of the joy of coding, is the luck of the draw. I'm capturing software development in the raw here, so if things go wrong, that's kind of part of the plan, is that there is no plan. I'm making it up as I go. The second thing is that this agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description down below. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the handouts section. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I'm just going to drop the link right now into the Twitch chat. 1 second. Agenda. There it is. Right. I also quickly want to let you know that there is an episode guide. The episode guide for The Joy of Coding. Oh, I'm sorry, it opened in the wrong window. Let me drag this tab over here. So The Joy of Coding episode guide, pardon that sound. The Joy of Coding episode guide is completely viewer driven. It is something that you, beloved viewers, have been contributing to since its inception way back in the day. And these include notes, addenda, bullets, links, handy things for each individual episode, which is particularly useful if you're searching for something. Maybe you're searching for an episode, something I talked about, or something I covered or something. And you can find a link to the episode guide here in the agenda. And because it's completely viewer driven, you can send your own pull requests to the repository if you have your own notes you want to add or your own addenda. I modeled it a little bit off of a similar episode guide for a live hacking series called Handmade Hero, which is really cool. And Smurf D, who is one of the viewers of this stream, is a very prolific contributor and has got the episodes 210 and 211 here in my hopper. So I'm actually going to review those right now, and maybe we can merge them in right away. So let's take a look. Episodes 210 and 211. Okay, so let's look at 210 first. 210 was on April 1st, 2020, right? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. That was correct. And so these dates are all correct. I want to make sure that the link to the video is correct. So one moment while I just follow the link. This is all just like some minor quality assurance. Make sure that everything is working properly. Yep, that's the right place. And then make sure that the agenda is correct. Yep, that looks right. The topics, yes. Background music. I'm using the same background music that I used on April 1st. April Fools. And we're working on the intersection observer stuff. Oh, yeah, and I talked about CD dash. What else? This all looks right. So I'm gonna accept that. Sounds good. For April 8th, which was episode 211, that all looks correct. The episode, we're just going to take quickly a look at the link. Yep, 2/11, April 8th. And then we're going to just make sure that the agenda is pointing correctly. Yep. And then again, Wi-Fi, hoping it holds out. Let me just quickly check OBS, make sure I'm not dropping frames like crazy. Amazingly, it's holding out. Thank you so much, internet service provider. And we kind of, it was like an evolution on the previous weeks where we were making DS images use responsive, sort of like responsive image techniques, declarative responsive image techniques. And I got that to work, and that's up for review. And I also showed people how to make their own tortillas. Or at least I talked about making our own tortillas. I didn't actually do it on camera. But imagine if this was a cooking show. So both of these look amazing. Thank you so much, SmurfD. I'm going to merge these in, and I'm going to say thank you. Thanks. Always thank your contributors for their hard work and their dedication. Danny Colin says, hi, folks. Hi, Danny Colin. Good to have you here. I should probably close my email. Don't want to have that open. Let's get started now on what I wanted to work on today, which is here. I should link as well to the music. It's the same music as before, or it's pedal, not leaf. It's pedal. Apologies. And I've got all these windows. Let's close them all. Close. No, I want to close them all. I thought there was a way to just close all these. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Close, 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 close. Okay. What I want to work on today is a bug related to the privileged about content process that was recently opened. So the privileged about content process is enabled on Nightly right now. It's a key part of my plan for making startup faster. And basically what it does is it sequesters about home, about new tab, and about welcome in their own special content process so that we can give that content process more powers and abilities. And right now, if you have Nightly, then you're running your about home and new tab should be running inside of the privileged about content process. So if we look up in here to look at the running processes, we should be able to see that Firefox Nightly, for example, Firefox Nightly privileged content is process number 38373, which maps to this tab 38373. I'm not sure if you can see that number in that tooltip, but that's what it says. So this tab is running in the privileged about content process, and that's good. That's what we want, and we want that to ride the trains. And so our dedicated quality assurance and testing folk have been sort of kicking the tires, so to speak, on the privileged about content process, and they found a bug. And I wanted to investigate that today and see what we can do about it. So let's let me describe the bug. Well, first of all, let me find the bug. Privileged, back, where was it? Bug, scroll, privileged. Man, okay, where's the root bug? Re-enable privileged content process. And here's the meta bug. And the new bug that was probably filed is here. This is the bug. So let me just, I might already actually have this under my active bugs list. I don't. So we're gonna add this to my active bugs list. Whoops. Okay, so the bug is that if you have the privileged about content process running and you're, let's say I have like a bunch of pocket stories here. I've configured it to like show the maximum. I think that's the default these days. I'm a big fan of Pocket actually. Like I find these articles fascinating. I don't understand why some people think it's like clickbait when like some of this is really, really interesting. Like the chemistry of cold brew coffee. Like I'm really interested in that. So let's say, for example, that I scrolled down. Notice that I've scrolled down to this link on cold brew coffee, and I click on this link. So I scroll down, and I click on this link. So I go to this Ars Technica page, and now let me click back. Notice I am now back at the very top of the page. This is not where I was before. Originally, I was scrolled down, and this is a problem. This is the bug, where by clicking back, I expected us to have kept our scroll position. In fact, I can show you the expected behavior if I run a build here. Actually, let me build first. Okay, so here is the privileged, or I think I've disabled the privileged about content process in this profile. I'm just double check. No, it's still on, so I'm going to turn it off so we can observe the behavior that we want. So I've turned off the privileged about content process. So here we have our new tab page here. I'm going to scroll down. Let's see if we can find that coffee thing again. It's not here. Let me choose a different one. Here's the toilet paper one. Why are people hoarding toilet paper? So I've scrolled down, I click on the toilet paper link. Now I'm going to click on the back button up here, and I'm positioned correctly where I was before. You know, and this is important because what if I had like misclicked? What if I just like accidentally fat fingered this link, but I really wanted to click on this one? You know, if I was sent all the way back to the top, then I, as the user, am forced to like scroll all the way back down. We're not doing a good job of sort of persisting state between navigations. So let's investigate this and see what's going wrong. So how do I want to break this problem down? How to investigate this problem? How to investigate this problem? So first, how does the mechanism for restoring the scroll position work? Can we identify where this happens? I'm actually going to turn this into a to-do. Oh, not a new tab. Wrong tab. Oh, wrong keyboard shortcut. There we go. Can we identify where this happens? And then the second thing is, can we identify why this code path doesn't get followed? I presume it doesn't get followed, the code path for restoring scroll position, when the privileged about content process is enabled. I suspect this is due to the fact that we now process flip. We process switch. Except that we were process switching before too. Like, I'm pretty sure we do a process switch. If this is process 39402 and I click on toilet paper, now I'm in process I'm in 39402, and then I'm back in 39402. Okay, hold on. Let me open up some more tabs. These are all in 39402. Let me hit the maximum number of content processes. So I'm just gonna like open a bunch of tabs in the background. Boop, boop, boop. So I should have the maximum number of content processes for a default user profile. Those should all be launched. So I should be wrapping around now. So if I open up, like, all of the new tabs should be in 39402 because we cluster them all within a single content process, or at least we try to. And then all of these are in 39403, 39428, 39425. Are any of them running? 39421, 39422. Where's 402? I want 402 to show up. 425, 428, 403, 420. Am I just like wrapping around again? 421, 422, 421, 422. So that's interesting. We never go back to the 402 process. Wonder why that is. Let me open up a non-Reddit link. 423, 425. All right, well, anyways, now let's suppose I navigate. What happens? 428. I transitioned to 428. So that's now in the same process as which tab? This tab right here. And now if I click on back, I'm going to transition. I should transition back to the old content process. No, now I'm in 4.2. That's very interesting. I stay inside 4.2.8. I think that makes sense. I think I remember. So hold on a second. Let's scroll down. move forward, and now move back. 428. Because I'm in the same content process, I don't actually transition back to a different content process. Now let me open up a new tab, scroll down. I'm in 420, I click on the Dune link, and click back. Now I'm at the top. Okay, so this is actually a pre-existing bug. There's a lot of, so here, what have I just learned? Learnings. 1. I forgot how process allocation currently works with about new tab and / about home. It looks like there's a special, like, it looks like we keep loading those in a single content process, not the privileged one, but one that no other web page loads in. This is really similar to the privileged about content process. 2, if we transition from the privileged about content process to a pocket story and click back, then we run into the same issue. Oh, hang on. Click back, pocket story, and incur a process flip, and then click back, and we run into the same issue. But only if we click back. If we navigate to about home, about new tab, such that we don't incur a process flip, then scroll position restoration works. So for example, if I go, where am I right now? I'm in 420, I go here, and now if I go forward to new tab, so now I'm in, 420 again. No, it doesn't make sense. 420. So it looks like we loaded. Oh, I'm remembering now. 428. Okay. This is not true. It looks like we assign about new tab to a pre-existing content process, and then when navigating away from about home, about new tab, we stay in that content process. We don't process flip. Right? Is that true? How are we incurring a process flip before? I open a tab, I'm in 403. I open another tab, I'm in 420. I open another tab, I'm in 421. Like, now we've maxed out. Now we're like attaching ourselves to other content processes. Whereas before, 428, 428. If we start at the beginning, let's start at the beginning. Okay. I am in content process 428. I open up a new tab, 425. New tab, 425. New tab, 428. New tab, 425. Right. So there's like, we're cycling. We're choosing between there are like two living content processes. So I'm gonna restart the browser so I can start from zero. So that there's only ever one content process. There should only be one at this point. 445. 445. Yeah. 445. So we stay in the one. Now if we navigate, what we're gonna do is we're gonna consume. We're actually going to transition to a new content process, I believe. So instead of staying at 445, I believe this is going to cause us to transition to 479. right. And then we click back and we cause the bug. Okay. Now, let's suppose that we have maxed out the number of content processes that we can have. So I'm going to open up a bunch of these, 4, 5, 7, 8. Now if I open up a new tab, 4, 4, 5. Oh, that was because there's a preloaded one, so I'm going to open up yet another one, and this one's in 485. Now, because we've maxed out the number of content processes, the technique that we were using before, where whenever you have only a couple of tabs, if you have, that's the thing, that's the rule that I'd forgotten. I'm sort of learning this as I go. Yeah, there are 8. Here, let me write this down. There are, by default, a maximum of 8 content processes. That's with the default settings. That's why I say by default. If the number of content processes is less than this maximum, then opening an About New tab / About Home will attach to a pre-existing content process to the same pre-existing content process. If the number of content processes is at the maximum, then opening an About New tab, About Home, will attach the same pre-existing content process and incur a process flip when navigating. Then opening an About New tab, About Home, will choose a pre-existing content process, but not incur a process flip when navigating. So actually, let's start again. We've got our, got our About Home here. I'm going to scroll down, click link, go back. What? Hang on. 39559. Click on this. Sorry for the loud noise. Let me see if I noticed that was like freaking people out before. I'm actually going to turn off my system alerts. I got a feeling that that's really annoying for you all whenever I have sound effects and stuff. So I'm going to turn off my my alerts. I'm going to mute them. Nope. I want the sound. I just want to mute the alerts. There we go. Cool. So hopefully no more sound effect. Blang, whenever... Ocarus asks in the Twitch channel, did you encounter performance issue that leads to stuttering? If one Twitch stream is playing, opening second Twitch stream causes first stream to lag, become unresponsive, until second stream loads fully, and when the first stream is unresponsive, it sometimes causes audio stuttering requiring reload. Well, one thing I know that Twitch does is that it attempts to downgrade the stream quality whenever a tab is in the background. Is that what you're referring to? Like, or do you have multiple windows? Twitch attempts to save bandwidth and attempts to save like it attempts to save resources by sending you lower quality stream, I believe, whenever it's backgrounded. And background tabs in Firefox currently, unless there's video or audio playing, we downgrade the process priority. But tell me more. Multiple windows is Ocarus. 2 screens. I don't personally encounter performance issues because I don't tend to watch Twitch. So I've never experienced this, but if you are experiencing this, I encourage you to collect a performance profile and file a bug. That's the easiest way for us to diagnose. We can send it off to our media people. It sounds like either maybe your cores are saturated, or we're scheduling things wrong, or our media decoder might be overloaded or not scheduling things correctly. It could be a whole host of things, but I've never experienced it, but that's because I'm not exercising the browser in the same way that you are. Okay, so I thought I was onto something here. 3559. We don't transition to a different process. 3559. Then 3559. It's whenever we have lots of content processes that all of a sudden we transition, where this process we might be in a completely different process, and then we click on this. Yeah, and then we transitioned. Okay. Then opening will attach to the same pre-existing content process and not incur a process flip, as on navigation the new page that we navigate to will load in the same process. Is at maximum, then opening About New tab will choose a pre-existing content process, but will then do a process flip to choose the next content process in the round robin. Something like that. I think that's the logic behind it. Akra says, I asked because I saw you were opening a lot of YouTube pages, and it reminded me of this issue, since it also happens when using Gmail while watching Twitch. I can tell you right now that both are very JavaScript intense. Potentially they're, your CPU might be bogged down, but it's also possible that there's like a scheduling issue here, or Firefox isn't distributing the load, the operating load correctly. I don't actually know. It's almost like going into a doctor's office and saying, how come my stomach hurts? Like, I don't know, it could be a whole host of reasons. I need more data. I need a profile is usually the best thing. I mean, these days, if you go into the doctor's office and say, I have a persistent cough or a dry cough, I have a hard time breathing, like if there's a known bug, like in this case, my analogy, the known bug is like COVID-19, then we can say, okay, you might have this, we know how to handle that, or we know what we need to do with you. But in a normal case where someone comes in with kind of like a general problem, and performance problems are often kind of general, like where someone says, it just feels laggy, or I don't know, it's just, there's something feels slow. We need to find a way of collecting more information and capturing a screenshot, or not a screenshot, capturing a trace of what's going wrong, like a playback of what's occurring, so we can actually try and fix it. Because otherwise, we're just guessing, and that's a terrible way to do performance work. It's just guessing. All right. Anyways, I want to figure. So I think I've learned something here. It's the process flipping. So like to some, we lose scroll position when process flipping. Is this true in other types of process flipping? So for example, if I navigate from here and I go to like About Preferences, so this is loading in the parent process, and I go back, yeah, I lose my scroll position. So there might actually be a pre-existing bug. Let me see if I can find one. I'm going to sort by ID. Loses scroll position. About support loses scroll position. That might be related. Close restored tab loses scroll position. That might be related. So let me update the bug with some text. This looks like a general problem that has existed for a while. Or let me confirm that actually, because maybe we can prove this out. because maybe this problem didn't always exist. Maybe because I know that there's been a lot of work on improving Session Store and changing Session Store for Fission. So let's load up an old build. Let's load up a nightly build from, let's say 2019 September 1st. So beginning of like the fall of last year. Let's see what happens if I run that build. Lodka8 says, any tips on how to start contributing to Firefox or other open source projects for beginners? Yeah, that's a great idea. I think it's a great idea to try and contribute to open source projects. I think for Firefox, my suggestion is to find a mentored bug, and you can find all of our mentored bugs at this site. If you go to codetribute.mozilla.org, I'll drop a link into the Twitch chat so that you can click on it, but I'll also put it in the notes for the episode. This will help you find a bug that we have identified as a good first bug to do a contribution. And each one of these bugs is mentored, so they should have a person associated with them who can guide you through not only how to fix the bug and where to look and all the tools and stuff, but also getting your build environment set up, walking you through the process right from the very beginning of getting your build going, getting your patch written, then getting it reviewed, then getting it landed, and then moving on to your next bug. And that oftentimes is how I suggest people get started. So I'm going to put that here. Getting started contributing to Mozilla. So for example, if you are interested in like, oh, I like DevTools, I like the Firefox developer tools, and you can click on here, and then you can find a big list of bugs that have been identified as like good first bugs, you know, and say like, oh, help wanted, like, oh my goodness, like they're tagged in a variety of different ways, but like you can get more information about like, oh, let's pick one. Let's find a good first bug. All of them are mentored, I believe, if they're in this list. Let's see. All right, here's a good first bug. Properly store cookies in internal net panel data structure info. So here's a bug summary, and let's go and check out the bug. So the bug is unassigned, but someone wrote a patch 2 years ago, and it's like kind of sitting in the review queue. And then it's like there's some back and forth here a couple years ago, but it looks like it's just kind of sitting here, and it might need like another round of work. Like I have a feeling there was some feedback given somewhere in here. So if you're interested, you could like take this on, maybe pick up the code that this person wrote and work with Hansa to try and get it landed. So that's an example. So that's how I would recommend. No problem. Ladka8 says, thanks, Mike. And I say, you're welcome. Hang on, where's the camera? You're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna update this bug. This looks like a general problem that has existed for a while. When we do process flipping, we don't seem to persist scroll position correctly after the navigate. We don't seem to restore correctly after the navigate and restore step of the process flip. I'm going to see if this has always been a problem or is a result of recent fission efforts in Session Store. Okay, so I've got my old build. Oh, no, I didn't mean to launch that. I've got my old build here. This is a very old build. This is from September. And yeah, what I wanted to know was transitioning from one process to another, what happens. So I'm going to turn on the privileged about content process again. This has been around for a while. It's actually been in the tree for like over a year, which is really handy for reproducing this sort of thing. And now I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click. And click back. Okay. So that caused the bug to recur. I'm going to do it again. Okay. And now if I go to like Mozilla.org, scroll down, and then go to About Preferences, and click back. And we go right back to the top. Okay. So that lends credence, or that gives weight to the idea that this bug has been around for a while. Let's go back even further. Let's go back to the beginning. January 1st, 2019. Blast from the past. Pulling down a nightly from like back in 2019 when we were working outside and stuff, when I could leave the house. Oh man, the memories. Slow descent into madness. All right. Where's this build? And if this has always been a problem, then this will be good, because we're not just fixing like a little sort of side bug, but we're fixing like a real problem that's existed for a while. Okay, so I don't have as much space to scroll here, but I could probably add more pocket stories if I can figure. Recommended by pocket. Yeah, I'm gonna add 4 rows. Good. And now I'm gonna re-enable privileged. Oh, old about config. Separate privileged about content process was enabled back here on nightly. That's right. Okay. So now if I scroll down, so it's already enabled, the privileged about content process. So I scroll down, I click, and I go back. It does work. So like process 39995, process 39989, well, no, that sent me back to the top. What's going on here? You saw that, right? And now it sends, this is very unreliable. Let's try this again. So I'm in process 39989. Now I'm in process 40,000. Now I click back, 39989, and I've got my scroll position persisted. So it sounds like this is actually a relatively recent bug. That's really, really neat. That's neat to find out, because that means we can probably, we can bisect now. I'm going to show you how to bisect. So bisect means, you have a bug that exists now, and you don't know when it was introduced. And it's a little non-deterministic. You're right, Akris. It seems a little non-deterministic, but we were able to reproduce it relatively easily with a couple of repeats. So what we can do is we can start taking the set of builds where we know that the bug didn't exist, like in January 1st, 2019. Between then and now, look at half of them, half of that set, and then determine whether or not the bug exists in that half. And if not, then look at the other half and find which one the bug is in. Is it in here or is it in here? And then once you determine which one it's in, then you repeat the process and you keep dividing in half. And if you're, maybe you studied exponential functions and logarithms and stuff in school, you'll realize that this is a sort of a logarithmic pattern where we're taking something, we divide it again, this is a log. We're doing the logarithm here, where we divide. So you actually get down to one build really quickly. You can get down to a single build. You may have started with hundreds of builds. You can get down to the single build within a couple of steps, which is really nice. So we've got a tool to do this called Moz regression. And what you do is you say Moz regression. This is in if you're in the source directory for Mozilla Central or Mozilla Unified, whichever version you have. I say that the first good revision that I want to deal with is January 1st. Oh, hang on. There's one more thing I want to do, which was I want to make sure that the privileged about content process is always on, because I know that on 2019, January 1st, it was on, and then somewhere between then and now, it got turned off. And I want it to always be on, because that's sort of a prerequisite for the bug to rear its head. So what's the format to do that? To flip a preference, and then string followed by a colon. This is kind of weird, but all right. Let me find the actual privileged. This is the content process. So true. So we're going to start bisecting, and this is how we can hunt down what patch was responsible for causing the bug to be first introduced. So what it's starting with, if you look, is it's going to just double check that our assumptions are correct. We're going to start with today's build and nightly and make sure the bug is there. And it will be. And then we're going to look at January 1st to make sure it's not there. And it shouldn't be. It might require a couple of checks because it's non-deterministic. Maybe. Or maybe I was just doing it wrong. Maybe I'm just over-caffeinated. But we'll see. Ding, round one. So we launch the build, and then this tool, mock Moz regression, is going to keep track of like which one is good, which one's bad, etc. So which build? This is, oh, no, sorry, it's not downloaded April 15th, and I downloaded January 1st first. So this is the one we already tested. So that's fine. We're gonna turn on more sections. We're gonna say 4 rows. We've got 4 rows here. I'm gonna click on the cake thing, wait for this to load, and then click back. And yeah, it scrolled correctly, so this is good. So I say that this is a good build, and so it shuts down that build. And meanwhile, in the background, it downloaded today's build. So it's very like eager and efficient, like at the cost of your network. Thankfully, I have for Canada a relatively decent network plan, like home internet plan. So it's okay that I'm downloading like megabytes and megabytes and megabytes in the background. Thankfully, data caps these days are not a big deal. So we're going to look at today's. So shut that down, scroll, then click on this, then click back, and yeah, we're sent back to the top. Let me just click on the cake one, click back, sent back to the top. This is bad. I say bad. So now we're going to go right in the middle. So now we're looking at August 24th, 2019. So that's relatively smack dab in the middle between January 1st, 2019 and the current date. It's pretty much found a date that's right in the middle, and it's going to say, let's look at this one and see if the bug is there. Okay. So let's choose this one. Click back. And yeah, the bug is here. Now let me just ensure that the privileged about content process is enabled. Yeah, that's all working. So cake, click back, and sends me to the top. All right, and do it one more time. Scroll down, cake. I'm gonna give this Pocket article about cake a lot of traffic today. So this is bad. So meanwhile, it downloaded April 29th. We're gonna check that out. So already, we have figured out that the bug is between January 1st and April 15th. Wait, no, that's where we started. We narrowed the window from January 1st till today down to January 1st to August 24th, which is a huge jump. You know, we basically took our pool of possibilities and split it in half, which is great. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click on a link. Now I'm going to click back and send me back to the top. I'm going to scroll down, click back, and send me to the top. So I think this is a bad. This is a bad. Scroll down, click, and back, and send me to the top. So this is bad. So now I'm going to go get March 1st. So the bug was probably introduced between January 1st and April 29th. And so now we're going to split that in half. And again and again and again. And because like this is one of the nice things about this technique is it's going to give us a revision or maybe a set of revisions to look at to give us clues on what originally introduced this problem, which is a much more concrete way of approaching. Like I could have done it with inspection and tried to trace through, but this way, you know, I'm getting more information about what's causing it directly. Plus, it's kind of neat to just try and reproduce the bug. So this one also appears to have the bug. Send right back to the top. This is bad. Wow. So the bug is now, we realize, has been introduced somewhere between January 1st and March 1st of last year. Only 5 steps left. That's 59 days worth of builds. Now, even when we get down to the one nightly, there are builds within a night, like a continuous integration builds that we can bisect on, and that will take us down to a particular revision, which is really nice. So it might not be 5 steps. It might be more like 10 steps. We'll see. But I think it's going to be worth it. Wait, come on. I said 4. Oh, not highlights. Sorry. Pocket. 4 rows. Okay. Cake. All right, so the bug is not here. Sends me right back to the cake article. So this is a good build. Okay, so now we've narrowed to somewhere between January 1st and March 1st, I guess. Because the build was good, something like that. So now we're looking at February 15th. Oh yeah, because I guess it's... So it wasn't... We realized that the bug was not... or it didn't exist between January 1st and January 31st. So that's an interesting finding. So click on... Let's do the cold brew one. Click back. And cake. And click back. So a bug appears to be here. So I'm going to say bad. So now we know that the bug was introduced between January 31st and February 15th. So 15 days left, 3 steps remaining. We're getting there. We can, like, while we're waiting, we can actually look to see what revisions are actually in that range of time. It's a lot, but we're slowly paring it down. So let me crank up the number of pocket recommendations, go back, scroll down, hit the cake, close the pop-up about shield. Okay, so this is sending me back to the right scroll position. So this is a good build. Good. So we've reduced the number of changes it could be from this massive list to this slightly less massive list. Back in, when was this? February of last year. Wow. Memories. Okay. Click on the cake. Click back. See the bug. Click on the White House. Click back. Oh! So that didn't send me to the top. So this one, maybe we're okay. This one sent me to the top. What? Hold up. And then, yeah, this one sent me back to the right place. And that one sent me to the top. What? So here's some non-determinism for sure. Hopefully this doesn't throw all of my measurements out of whack. I've been pretty sure that the bug was introduced, like... I thought I've been doing rigorous testing. But yeah, this is definitely non-deterministic. I wonder if I have to wait a couple of seconds for the scroll position to be persisted. And then... Nope, that doesn't seem to be it. I wonder what the trigger is. Cake? It doesn't seem to like the cake one. Okay, I like the cake one. So this is a good one, even though I'm going to put that in air quotes because of how non-deterministic it is. Oh, sorry, not bad. Good. How many steps will it take? Asks Ocris. Well, let's say, I think it's saying that there's like maybe 1 step left. We went down from like half a year or more than a year down to a couple of days in like 6 steps. It's pretty good. So this one appears to be okay. It's still that non-determinism, but it appears to be good. So now we've switched to task cluster. So we narrowed the revision down to like an individual day. And so now we're trying to find some task cluster builds that we can use. And uh-oh, we might be screwed. Because we can't find task cluster builds for the platform that we want. This is bad. So we might have like a full day's worth of revisions to look at. But let's take a look and see if there are any like session store. Session. Scroll. And scroll to and scroll by. Scrollable frame and shadow DOM. There are scroll related things in here for sure. Debugger. Is there stuff that touches session store? Session. Scroll. I was hoping we could. This is really sort of disappointing. I was expecting to be able to get down to an individual revision. But I might have to do it myself. So hold up. The problem was between these 2 revisions. So I'm going to say download this or update to this revision. Wow, gotta go back into the past. Lots of changes in between now and then. But we're gonna try and build this with an artifact build, so hopefully we can do it quickly. If the artifacts exist in task cluster, I hope they do. Because if they do, then this will be quick. And if not, then we might actually, this Moz regression session might not work out. Because I don't really want to do binary builds because it's going to take too long. I've only got like half an hour or so left in the stream. Artifact builds we can do, but if we can't find the artifacts, then like I'm not confident that we're going to be able to find artifacts for building, because it looks like that's what it's complaining about here, but we'll see. Build with artifact build. And if this doesn't work, then what I want to do is start. Well, you know what I also should do? I should write down what the. Is there a regression range? I narrowed it to this. We're attempting to narrow further. And now I want to understand the mechanism for restoring the scroll position if this does not work. I might need to understand that mechanism regardless. I'll probably need to understand that mechanism regardless, but I thought it would be neat to show you the Moz regression stuff too, because it's a really handy tool usually when you're trying to sort of figure out, you know, when did this bug show up? Where did this problem occur? So, because that's useful for a couple of reasons. One, it allows you to look at a line or a commit or like a series of commits that are related to the problem, which is a great position to be in. It's way better than just guessing and sort of checking around and doing it by inspection. At least you have something that you can look at and read and say, like, this is responsible, we just have to find out why. Oh, this is what I was worried about. It can't find the artifacts. it found some. This may or may not work. The other thing is it can point you to a person. So the person who wrote the patch that caused the regression, you can talk to them. Maybe they'll even feel like, oh, I know exactly what's going wrong here. I can fix it. So, you know, that's the other nice thing about Moz regression is it can point you at another set of people who can help you, either by directly fixing the bug or guiding you on how you can fix the bug. That's what I like about Moz regression, as opposed to like being completely on your own. Scoop boop a doop boo boo. There's snazzy jams that I'm listening to here from Broke for Free. This build is taking a long time. I'm hoping it doesn't take too much longer. What I'm planning on doing is just doing 2 of the builds, but also in parallel, I think I'd like to start looking at how the scroll persisting stuff works, or likely works. So anyways, let's run this that we just built. This revision. Yeah, someone said, like, yeah, you can find that the person who regressed the patch was yourself. That definitely happens. Yes, Smurfd, that is definitely possible. That has happened to me before. What? What are you complaining about? I might have a busted profile. Let me, in fact, create a new profile. Regression hunting. Okay. Oh no, this might just be a straight up broken build. No. Alright, this is not going to work out, folks. I apologize. This ended up being a wild goose chase, which is sometimes the case with software development. Moz regression was able to get us down to a revision range that might be able to give some clues, but I worry that this is too large a range. Like, there was some stuff in here about scroll, but I was expecting to see stuff about, like, session store. And this is, like, pan zoom controller. This is all for, like, Gecko view. And Android. Scrollable frame, Edgar Chen. This is mainly changing a test. There's this bug that was fixed. Flow is set in native. It's changing focus. This one, yeah, see, like, that doesn't seem like it would have anything to do with it. Again, anchor to anchor. This is just renaming a thing. So, like, I'm really disappointed, actually. I expected more. I mean, almost certainly there's something in here that caused it, but it's less obvious. I was expecting for something more obvious. So, too bad, so sad. So how does the scroll persisting stuff even work? Great question. There are 2 ways that I'm aware of. One is using something called the BF cache, and the other is using something called session store. And whenever you do process flipping, we use session store. I know that for a fact. So that's what I think we should be looking at. So session store, I'm waiting for the update to complete so I can look at the code and it doesn't change underneath us. Nils IRL goes, is Firefox ever going to migrate to Git? Guess what? You can use Git if you want. There is a Git mirror. If you go to github.com/Mozilla/ Mozilla, what is it? Gecko Dev? Yeah, Gecko Dev. You can use Git if you want to contribute to Mozilla Central with Git. You can use Gecko Dev. Huzzah! Alternatively, you can use something called Git Cinnabar, which allows you to use Git to talk to our Mercurial servers. And it works with using both Git, cloning Gecko Dev and creating patches and submitting them with MozFab, or using Git Cinnabar. Both work with MozFab. It's fine. So you can use Git if you want. Huzzah. The thing about Git, though, at least historically, when we originally chose Mercurial as our tool of choice, I think I'm still using Artifact though, is that it was a lot worse for humongous repositories, speed-wise. Like, Mercurial knocked Git out of the park when it came to dealing with extremely large repositories. Because, like, we're talking about several gigabytes of data here. I think my Mercurial repository is like 8 gigabytes, 9 gigabytes, something like that. Maybe it's 10 these days. And Git would just, like, fall over back in the day. And so that it was an obvious choice. We're going to use Mercurial. Facebook is similar, in a similar boat. Facebook still uses Mercurial a lot internally. They invest a lot of time and effort in trying to make it faster and make the experience better. I also personally prefer Mercurial's user interface. Like, the commands are a lot better. Git, for example, makes it so easy to blow your own foot off and, like, accidentally rewrite history and screw your teammates. So I actually prefer Mercurial these days. It is a hurdle. Yeah, I know. It's just that from what I understand, the reason Mercurial was chosen is because it's more cross-platform. It wasn't just cross-platform. It was also because of performance. But cross-platform and making it work on Windows was a huge part of it. Yeah, that was another major part of it for sure. Cross-platform, you're right, is not a problem anymore. Okay, so let's take a look at the session restore stuff. Content restore is the module that actually does the work of persisting and restoring the scroll state. All right. So let's see here. There is a scroll positions thing. We restore the scroll positions here with session store utils, restore scroll position, and then there's a point where we collect the scroll positions. Let me see if I can find it, because I think that's going to be important to look at too. Collect scroll position. That's what we want to understand. Collect scroll positions. Who uses that? JS. Gecko child, session state aggregator. I don't see it being used anywhere. Collect scroll position. It's used by Gecko View. Is there a different API that... I'm really not familiar with this stuff. I'm sort of seeing it for the first time. Scroll position. Scroll position, that is the mechanism. Collected data. Collect scroll position. Collect form data. Restore form data, restore session storage. Huh. So let's see if we can trace where the tab data comes from. So for example, if we open up the browser toolbox, we can interrogate session store for information about the current tab. So I can say, like, session store .get tab state G browser selected tab. And I'm going to turn off instant evaluation because it's kind of dangerous right now. And then I do JSON parse because by default it returns like a string, JSON string. And what we have here is an entry. We have a single entry, the URL, and we don't have actually any scroll information here. Now if I scroll and we flush the information, I just have to remember how to flush the information from this tab state flusher. We're going to import this module. We're going to say await tab state flusher flush G browser selected browser. Okay, and now let us take a look at the tab state. So here I do have a scroll object. Did I have that before? I didn't before. And now I do. So something is collecting the scroll information. Now if I change my scroll position to the very bottom, and then I say flush again, and then give me the information. Scroll is now at the, I guess that's the very bottom. This must be X. My X scroll position is 0 because I didn't scroll horizontally, and my Y scroll is at 3,227. So that's good. Now, where is that coming from? Where's that information coming from is what I want to know. Tab state flusher asks for, it's been a while since I've done this stuff. Tab state flusher, how does it work? We ask the frame loader to request a tab state flush. Browser frame loader, and we also send this message. So what does this do now? Request tab state flush. Answer stressors return true. So somewhere there's request tab state flush in our native code. What we do is we say force flush from parent. If there's a session store listener, that's in the parent only case, okay? Otherwise, if we're remote browsing, then we send a message. So the receiving flush tab state should be in the content process here. What it does is it says update session store with flush ID. This is our native code that's going to store get scroll positions. Positions, position descendants. It gets the scroll positions. And presumably it is filling these two arrays. And then we send that back up to the parent. Okay. Store get scroll position. What's store in this case? Store is content session store. We ask get scroll positions. What we do is we collect the positions. So we look at the browsing context, we get the DOM window, and we collect the position for the document. And then we do, I guess recursively, we go into each of the child frames. And collect position works by actually asking to get the visual viewport offset. So that thing I found inside of like session store utils to collect the scroll position, that's like not the API that we're using. We're using this instead. And so maybe that other API was added purely for Gecko View. Okay. So it looks like we are collecting the positions correctly. That's good. We have the information. We're just not restoring that information when we go back. So for example, let's take a look at the restoration code. So when we do a navigate and restore, we eventually say we want to restore the tab content. We do one of these things. We enter this like giant branch, like giant function that branches into these different conditions, and we need to see which one we enter into. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. I think what I'm going to do is open up the browser toolbox, the multi-process toolbox, and then set a breakpoint in content restore. Whoops, sorry, I spelled that wrong. Content restore. Is that spelled right? Do I have the wrong content process loaded or selected? It's 526. 526. This one here. Content restore. Oh, because we haven't actually restored this one yet. Makes sense. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go back. And now I wonder if there's content restore. Content restore. Yes, it is. There it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a breakpoint in restore tab content. The reason why that module wasn't there yet was because it's lazy. It's a lazy module, and we only ever load it when we first need it. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. Why can't I set a breakpoint here? Are my dev tools broken? Maybe it's because I have the... What? Why are my tools broken? Oh boy. Why can't I set a breakpoint here? Alright, well maybe I can add a log point. That might be at least useful. So, log point. Entered branch 1. Nope, that didn't work. Fine, printf debugging it is. I'm sick and tired of wrestling with my tools. So at branch 1, at branch 2, at branch 3, and branch 4. I also want to take a look at this tab data that comes down with it. So dump restore tab content with tab data. JSON stringify tab data. Why did I mix single quotes with double quotes? Force of habit. All right, let's build this. Akris asks, the air conditioning is on? No, that's the heater. I live in a cold country. I live in Canada, and it is still quite cold out, and I'm in a basement. So our furnace will periodically kick in, because we're cold. I should probably, like, put on a sweater. But also, you know, we have plants and stuff inside the house that we're trying to keep warm. Because it's not warm enough yet outside to put plants. We actually had, someone asked if we have snow. It was snowing yesterday. Just briefly, but it was snowing yesterday. Okay. So let us recreate the bug. So this is not the restoration I care about. I care about going back now. Okay, so bunch of information that was restored. I don't see the scroll information in here. That's one thing. So are we not... Let me try something. Let me try an experiment. Let's get that tabs state flusher imported. And then we're going to scroll. And we're going to flush state. And then we're going to ensure that the selected browser, we currently have our scroll position persisted. The selected tab. Now I go forward. And now go back. So giant data URI in here. That's really kind of screwing me up. Attributes. The scroll position isn't being restored. I don't see the scroll position in this information. Would we expect it to be in here? Is it supposed to be in here? Tab data.scroll expects it. And what branch are we running into? At branch 1. So we go into here. So there are load arguments. And then we load the URI. So interestingly, we don't do this part, which might be important, but there's not even a tab data.scroll to look at. At least not as far as I can see. Maybe I'll make this simpler by saying restore tab data with tab data.scroll, tab data.scroll. So that's a little less verbose, but we're gonna tinker around now and surf around and see what happens. I'm learning. I hope you're learning too, but I'm learning. Smurfy asks, do you have a process for actual window as well and not just the tab? Yes, the main process is what hosts all of the actual like top level operating system windows. So we have the parent process, which is basically in charge of everything that is privileged. So that means talking to the operating system for the most part, registering windows, you know, anything that gets drawn outside of the content area is almost certainly in the parent process. And then everything in the content area, unless it's one of our special about pages, is in a web content process, if that makes sense. I was answering a question from Smurfy. Okay, so I scrolled down. I'm going to flush. Whoops, I've got the wrong console selected. Okay, I scrolled down, open up the console. Let's flush the tab. Let's make sure that we've got our scroll position encoded. We do. And now I'm going to click on the cake. And then we say there's no data.scroll. And then if I go back, there's also no data.scroll. Okay, so data.scroll never came down. So restore tab content was not, we weren't given the scroll data, which is interesting. Where does the data come from? That's my next question. So it's like, what is this dot? When do we set this? This dot tab data. Here in restore history. And restore history, we get sent a message from the parent process, I believe. Exported methods. Content restore history. In content session store.jsm, restore history, we get a message from the parent process that says, hey, restore history. Okay, so I can now, maybe, will the dev tools work if I deal with something in the parent process? So session store, restore history. If I, yay, I can set a breakpoint there. Great news. Is there any other restore history? No, it's just the one. Cool. So scroll down. Let us persist. Let me copy over the command I used to import the tab state flusher. We're going to put it in this tool in the console. Oh, I already had it. Great. That's right. I'm executing the same scope. Await, tab state flusher, flush. G browser selected tab, or selected browser, I think. Right? Yeah, it wants the browser. And now I click on this. We're sending a restore history. And what's the information we're sending? We're doing a session restore because we're doing what's called a brain transplant, or what I call a brain transplant, where a process flip causes us to like scoop out the session history from the old process and plop it down in a new process, which requires us to restore the history. And so let's take a look at the tab data that we're sending down. Arguments. So we have a browser, and then we have this object in this tab data. And there's no scroll information here. So that's interesting. Where were we called from that passed these options? Tab data from here. We inserted a browser, and where did this tab data come from? Tab state cache. We say tab data scroll or null. Persistent tab state with tab data information. Tab data, tab data. Tab data, tab data. So even when we were called here, restore tab was not given a scroll position. So where does tab state come from? We clone tab state clone. How does that work? Tab state .jsm clone. Collect data related to a single tab, including private data. Use with caution. Okay. Optional dictionary object containing custom tab values. An object with the data for this tab. This data is never cached. It will always be read from the tab and thus be up to date. If the latest scroll copy from cache. If the latest scroll position is on the top, we will delete scroll entry. When scroll entry is deleted in tab state cache, it cannot be updated. To prevent losing the scroll position, we need to add a handing here. What? What is this? Is this related? Scroll position of duplicate tab, undo close tab, lost if the page was scrolled to the top. This is 11 months ago. That might be within our timeline of when the bug was introduced. Let's see if it, except I would have expected to see, yeah, it's not in our regression range. But maybe our regression range was wrong. We had that non-determinism. If tab data.scroll, we delete it. What happens if we don't delete it? Does that put us back in our sort of like non-deterministic behavior? Let's see what happens. My nose is twitching because I feel like we're onto something. So scroll down, click cake, click back. Doesn't work. But scroll down again, click building. No, didn't work. No. False alarm. Data.scroll is still undefined. So that did not help. Now when we clone, we go through this information. Do we call copy from cache? We might not even actually enter this branch. No, we do. Tab attributes, get. Attributes. So many modules. Scroll in here? No. Has attributes to skip. Nope, don't care. Tab data, entries last accessed and tab last accessed. Okay, and then we say whether or not it's pinned, whether or not it's hidden. Excuse me. After copy from cache was called, we check for properties that are kept in the cache only while the tab is pending or restoring. So it looks like this, like, when do we ever... When do we ever get the scroll information out? What? Like... Key tab data entries, value, we get the data, tab state cache. Tab state cache. So many modules. Update. Permanent key. So let's see what happens if I can find out what's inside the tab state cache. So I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna flush, and now I'm gonna ask the tab state cache to show me G browser selected browser. Okay. So we have a scroll object. So it is in the tab state cache, this scroll information. Because presumably when we call tab state cache dot update, one of the things we tell it to persist is the scroll position. Tab state internal update. Tab state update. Oh, so much abstraction. I'm dying. Okay, session store update. So we get some information. Where did this information come from? We send it from here. That includes this data. Where's this data from? This data we get from underscore data, which is this, what is this thing? What is underscore data? Oh, this is a giant message queue thing, which is a map. And presumably, I think I know this, one of the things that puts stuff in the message queue message queue dot push, just the aggregator, history change. No, I'm wrong. I'm learning. Send when idle, so we periodically send information up unless the parent has asked us to flush. So message queue. content session store. Flush, we say this flush data. History. You know what will help, I think, is to use more search Fox power. So inside of browser components session store, let's see all the places where we talk about scroll. Content restore. Yeah. Now where do we ask for it? We saw that before. We were looking at, I feel like I'm going in circles here. We collected this from where? Oh man, we need to go back to the tape. Where did we collect this from? Collected it from where? Somewhere in our native code. It was in our native code. Scroll. DOM, is it session? Store utils binding. Session store utils. Session store utils. Going kind of in circles, I apologize. Scroll. Collect current scroll position. It was here. Collect current scroll position. That's because of here. Session store utils. Collect scroll position. But didn't we determine that this was only used by, yeah, get content view child. But we saw the same sort of frame tree data. Certainly this stuff is going to be used by form data. I think this pattern is what I saw where, like, yeah, the session store listener, it was this thing, collect position. And who calls that? Let me write this down. This is important. This is where, because I forgot it before, this is where we gather the scroll position. Who calls this? Position. It's in the session store listener when we are asked to collect positions, which occurs here in get scroll positions, which occurs whenever the browser child is asked in the native layer to update session store. So it's done natively. Okay. The native layer when requesting is it update session store? Who calls this? When the native layer in the content process does this as a response to receive flush tab state and receive session store tab listener. And then, like, if we were, there's like a timer that does it, and off of a timer. Okay, so we produce this string when we get the scroll positions. Sorry, here. And we send that up to the parent. And then that gets persisted to the tab state cache. This gets persisted to the tab state cache. is right here. When we navigate and restore, to do a process flip, we gather the tab data, but there's no scroll, nor is there apologies. Nor is there, I think here. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. Okay. There are two problems, it looks like. When we navigate and restore, we gather the tab data, but there's no scroll data sent down, nor is there anything to handle that scroll data. The code path that we enter for navigate and restore in the content process is here, which is it's this first one. Danny Colin says, watching, wait, hold on. A lot of things for a tiny, tiny tab, says Smurf D. Danny Colin goes, yep, people don't realize how much work it takes just for a small functionality. And there's a lot of behind the scenes work too, for example, UX. Smurf D goes, yeah. Danny Colin says, watching Mike live stream should be mandatory before someone opens a bug report just to rage at the devs. I mean, please don't rage at us. Like, that's just good practice in general. Rage on the internet, don't do it. As a rule. Smurfy asks, do you have a process for actual window as well, not just the tab? There is not a separate process for just a window. Like if I open up, for example, a new window, this new window, the outer window part is running in the same parent process. It's the content area that gets split out into its own process. Ocris is lolling at maybe my suggestion to not rage at devs. Hopefully not. I hope that's not a thing that you're encouraging. Okay, so I've actually just canceled a meeting that I was going to have at 3. So I can actually go a little bit longer, which is good because I feel like I'm getting close to figuring out what's going wrong here. So I'm going to keep going. I hope that's okay. Let me make sure I'm not dropping any frames. Oh, I've dropped some frames. 0.2% of my frames have been dropped. My network speed's only okay. There's like my kilobytes per second, it's fluctuating. There's a little bit of stuttering. I apologize. I'll try not to be so, oh no. Am I still on the internet? Yes, I'm still on the internet. Sorry if I'm dropping frames. I think I'm dropping frames. Oh no. Oh no. What's happened? Sorry folks, I'm just going to try and deal with some network issues. If you're watching the recording, I apologize for this next bit because it's going to be a little bit boring. Should still be going, right? Still going, still going. Still going. That's still going. So what's the problem? My internet's just crapping out. Sorry, folks. Let me just send a quick message to... Hold on a sec. Hold on. Hold. Oh, I'm sorry about my internet. I'm just gonna see if my wife is eating up a lot of bandwidth. Something. Because that might be related. Oh. Yep. I'm getting a response. Shoot, yes, downloads and uploads. Streaming. For I'm asking if she can pause for a couple minutes. Apologies. Okay, so this should improve in just a sec. Sorry folks, I apologize. This is one of those things that, that's where we go wrong. Should improve in a sec. Hello, internet, catch up with me, yo. Hey, all right. I'm starting to see better packets. I'm sending more data. It's catching up. I think I'm back in the green. Hey, okay, I apologize for that. Kind of lost my flow. But I think we're back. Sorry about that. Okay, I lost my flow, but it's okay. We're gonna keep pushing because I think we're on to something here. So, what do we know? When we do a navigate and restore, we gather the tab data, and what's going down is not the scroll stuff, and even if we were to send the scroll data down, there's nothing there to handle it. So it's a two-part problem, I can tell so far. So let's see if we can figure out why we're not sending down the scroll data. So I think we've identified this part. We kind of did this. See if we can figure out why we're not sending down the scroll data. And then the other one is, let's see why we're not handling the scroll data. So why aren't we sending down the scroll data? Does it get culled somehow? Let's go into session store, the session store code. Navigate and restore. This is the thing that's causing us. Oh, do tab process switch. Yeah, this is the stuff that we exercise whenever we transition between processes. Process switch, which gets called from on may change process. Okay, that's what happens. When do we like flush? When do we get the information? Tab data information. Bunch of checks. Don't care. And then we say do process switch. And then we tell the browser context to change the frame remoteness, but first we say do process switch within ourselves. This is when we start assembling the load arguments. We say session store navigate and restore. Passing in these load arguments. And that's when, when do we collect the tab data? Collect the tab data. Async navigate and restore. It's this. Aha, we flush here. So at this point, the parent should know about the scroll position. And then we ask to get the tab state. And we say tab state clone. So if we were using tab state cache get, we'd get this object. with the scroll position. Now if I say tab state clone, let's import tab state. All these modules from back in the day, and I say clone, and I give it a tab, gbrowser selected tab. What do I get? I do have the scroll object. Then what's tab? What is the second argument? Tab state.jsm. If you say clone, optional dictionary object containing custom tab values. Extra data. Okay, well, we don't have extra data here, I don't think, but tab custom values. What are tab custom values? It's just a weak map that periodically gets set by what? There's some API for setting custom tab values. I have a feeling that's for like extensions, our extensions APIs. Okay, so then where am I? Sorry, I lost my spot. Yeah. Here nope, that's duplicating. Yeah, here's what I want. So I want to know if this contains the scroll position. So I'm going to open up the debugger. Async, navigate, and restore. Okay, so click. And here's our breakpoint. Let's take a look. I'm going to bring up the console. I can do that with the escape key. It's very handy to bring up the console. And we're going to take a look at what tab state is. Oh, hang on. I got to execute this line first. All right. Now I see what the tab state is. Interestingly, no scroll position. Now, if I said just tab state.clone tab, would it give me the scroll position? Why? No. Why is there no scroll position? Has the scroll position been omitted somehow? Somewhere between then, like whenever I did things, here, let me tab state flusher, flush, gbrowser, tab. Oh wait, can I just do that? Tab linked browser. And now, why is my scroll position gone? That's what I want to know. Why is the scroll position gone? Very interesting. Very interesting. So, when we flush the data, flush the session state, the tab state, during the navigate and restore step, the scroll information doesn't seem to be set inside of tab state. Tab state, if I remember correctly, has this like collect thing and copy from cache and clone. And what we were like, is it possible that someone updated us to not include the scroll state anymore? Let's find out. So we're gonna just step through a bunch of these things, and we're gonna go back. We're gonna step through. I'm gonna turn off these breakpoints for a sec so we can go back. I'm gonna scroll down, and now I'm going to flush the selected browser, and we're gonna run tab state clone again for gbrowser selected tab. And that has our scroll position in it. So somewhere between this point and when we do navigate and restore, this scroll position gets lost. So let's find out where. Tab state. Normally, if this was native code, I'd do a watch point, but I got a feeling with all the like this is a copy, so I can't just like watch this. This is a copy. It's not a reference. And check out this update function. We're gonna look at this. We're gonna look at this. All of this. I'm gonna step through all of this and this. I want to know. So collect. Step in. We get the tab data. Tab attributes get. So tab data, at this point, what is tab data? Not a whole lot. And then copy from cache. And we still have tab data at this point that looks like this. And we're going to get it from the tab state cache. And what is data at this point? That's got our scroll position stuff in it. So tab state cache maybe is what I also need to set a breakpoint in anytime we overwrite the tab state cache. Okay, so continue. Now I'm going to click on this link. And now we are updating. And we're saying scroll null. We're nulling out the scroll information. Why? What is on the stack? Let's find out. This is it. We found it. Maybe. Update a data. Like I kind of want to like get a stack. Let's get a stack. New error stack. Let's go down to the bottom. Context. Let's get a stack. Trace. This is what's clearing out the scroll position. So let's drop this information in here. So we get called with this information saying, here's a flush, here's some data. What's a data? Not a whole lot. And then we go up, session store, epoch, data, current data, where current data has scroll be null. So where'd current data come from? Current data is this empty object, and we look at a data, and a data also has no scroll information. If data.positions, positions and position descendants, which we don't have, that's when it would set it. So upon receiving this message, update session store, we have no position descendants and no positions set. Why? Why? Where did this come from? We got this from update session store. Update session store, I don't know who's calling us, probably native code. We've reached the sort of the top of our JavaScript stack, so native code called us. Update session store. Let's see who calls us from native code. Data here. We receive the session store update. We load this JSM in native code. We get the JavaScript function we call update session store in there. Ooh, it's kind of wacky, but I'll take it. And data val is being passed in, and that's being converted to a JavaScript object from this data thing, which data comes from think it's being sent. Data update session store data. We construct it here. We move positions. Okay, here. We expected the child to send a session store update with the positions, and it doesn't. Positions. So why didn't it? Now we're in native code. This is really interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna, now because this is all native code time, I'm gonna remove all the breakpoints in JavaScript. We're gonna continue. And what I'm gonna do actually is I'm going to attach to the content process and look at this in LLDB, our native debugger. Okay, so all right. I'm gonna attach this process 54738. 738. Okay, and now we want to break in here. Browser child update session store. What namespace are we at? Are we in probably Mozilla DOM or namespace? Mozilla namespace. Just DOM. I'll bet it's Mozilla IPC. So break Mozilla IPC. Nope. Break. Is that good enough? Yeah, sorry, it's Mozilla DOM. That's where it was, not Mozilla IPC. So I'm just going to continue. And now I'm going to click this. We hit our breakpoint. And I forgot, this is an artifact build, so I have no symbols. Lovely. Well, at least I can determine whether or not maybe I can figure out whether or not we enter get scroll positions. Is scroll position changed in get scroll positions? Break. Is scroll position changed? What? Did I not get that right? Is scroll position changed? Is scroll position changed? Scrolls. Right. Maybe at this point it wants the full name. Okay. Oh, you know what? It's probably inlined. That's the thing. Okay, so continue, and then we see get scroll positions. So it is actually trying to do it. That's very interesting. It actually tries to do it. So it noticed that the scroll position has changed, and then it tries to do it. I presume I can't actually inspect members. Has no idea what I'm talking about, of course. All right, well, what would be great is, like, Akras asks, isn't there a script to show at least a function from the stack trace? Yeah, like, I can see the names of the frames, but I knew where I was, and if there was any JS on the stack, I could dump the JS, but there's no JS on the stack. What I need is a debug build to figure out why the scroll position isn't being sent, which is annoying, because this is going to take a while to build a debug build. And I worry that I'm not going to be able to do it in this stream. Folks, I think I'm going to have to call it here. If you're curious, if you want to follow along, you should follow along in the bug. Because I'm going to be updating this bug 1630234. I'm also going to be adding my own notes to this note here in Evernote. Let me share this, and I'll put the link to this inside of here. Sorry, let me switch around. One second. So I want to put this in here, and then the notes, and then copy the link to the notes. There was definitely a more efficient way of doing this. I apologize if this is painful for you. I know efficiency is something we all care a lot about, especially when it comes to browsers. But, you know, I'm only one human. Only one human. Be kind to your browser developers. All right, so follow along in this bug and in these notes, because I'm going to be taking notes as I go. But I have to stop here, I think. I got to get going. My wife, she's actually got to use the internet now and like do some uploads for her work, so I'm gonna stop here. Thank you so much for watching episode 212 of The Joy of Coding. We're leaving it on a cliffhanger. If you're not gonna follow along in the bug, I'll let you know during the next episode what happened. I will explain it, I promise. And I think we're getting close to a resolution here. We're gonna find out what went wrong. But not in this episode, which is too bad. But so sad, you know, sometimes you can't capture lightning in a ball. You know, watch the next episode and I'll let you know what happened. Thank you so much again for watching. I hope you take care of yourselves. You know, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you next week. Hang on, I gotta load up the music. I forgot. I'm using my phone these days, and that means I have to reload because the process dies. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.